But I can see us lost in the memory. August slipped away into a moment in time. It's VGC, the video game podcast with me, Jordan Midler, and Chris Scullion. This week, Andy's in Japan, so we can do what we want. But first, how's it going, Chris?
It's going well. Was that Taylor Swift again?
It was indeed. She has a song called August. And every August, all the Swifties celebrate by quoting it. I'm just, for video viewers, look at this absolute blinding like archangel light that's in my face now. I don't know what's happened. I've not moved, Matt. There we go. That's a bit better.
I've got the opposite problem. I've started using Epoch Cam Pro, which turns your phone into a webcam. Because it turns out my iPhone's infinitely got a better camera than my actual Elgato face cam. Sorry, Elgato, but it's just facts. And yeah, but I've put the flash on it and it's making my face bright red. It looks like I'm seconds away from a heart attack, but hey, aren't we all?
I mean, we've often said on this podcast that we want to go out like Tommy Cooper, so
exactly. So
got to broadcast.
Fingers crossed.
Just wait till you've seen what we've spent your Patreon money on. Yeah, it's been a good old week. I was in the Czech Republic, or Czechia as it's now known. Earlier this week, which was fun. It was 30 degrees, and I have 2 massive mosquito bites on each of my legs, so half and half. But we did see people from a medieval recreation thing fight each other with swords. So
good. Does that happen? Does that just usually happen in Czechia, or?
Oh yeah, that was unrelated to the Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 event. That was just people on the street.
I think that's where the phrase "check yourself before you wreck yourself" comes from.
Exactly.
So it's understandable.
It's quite unfortunate that after playing like 700 professional games and being like a legend for Chelsea, that the goalkeeper had to change his name to Peter Czechia. But that's the way it goes now. The thing that really got me is I had the holiday experience of, you go on holiday to like Santa Ponza and you sit and watch like the news in Spanish.
Yeah.
In the hotel, which was a circle because it was meant to look like a record because it was attached to the O2 Arena in Czechia. The telly was in German. But Comedy Central was in German, but all the programs were in English. So
that's okay.
South Park, which was on at 7 a.m. for whatever reason, like as I was getting ready to go to the events that South Park was on, during the episode it would be the normal version, and then during the adverts when they would have a trailer for South Park, it would be in South Park in German. So
okay, that doesn't make sense. When I was in Japan, like pretty much every hotel had the same range of TV channels, and at first it's a novelty. Sumo wrestling's on like every night, literally. But after a while, it's like the novelty's wearing off. I'd like to watch something in English, please. And they had BBC World Service, but dubbed into Japanese, and you're like, it's so painfully close because you can hear English speaking in the background, so that all I could get was some Malaysian news channel which spoke in English but was just dull as hell. So I was just watching loads of stuff about economics and stuff just because it was all I could get.
I love when I'm away watching like CNN or something like that, or like the British broadcast of CNN, and they run adverts constantly. So every 5 minutes, the same guy will come on and be like, "Money is like a maze. When you're looking for money, you can't find your money. So we'll give you the money analysis." 5 minutes later, that same guy's back. I'm like, Jesus, this is clearly airport telly. You're meant to watch this for 2 minutes as you're walking through an airport, and then you're not meant to sit and marathon CNN.
That's the thing, especially when you're in America and you're watching it, and it's always health adverts. So it's like you're watching CNN and suddenly it goes, "Do you have problems with your bowels? Take this, but caution, may contain bleeding out your arse." And then you get to the next advert and says, "Are you bleeding out your arse?" It's like, yeah, because of the last stuff I took. Well, take this now.
It's just like a woman dancing, like clapping her, like snapping her hands, and it's like, "Minoxidil may cause death, instant death, kill all your family. Please seek out a doctor if you start to die."
She just turns the screen and says, "My arse is bone dry."
Walks off into the distance with a big red patch on her arse from all the blood that's dried in.
Something tells me I'm into something. Yeah.
Oh well, it hasn't taken long for us to descend really below the belt now that Andrew's not here. I wonder if he's rocking his double fan solution, because when we were in SGF, there was a big drama about him getting these fans delivered to my hotel room. First of all, we went. They said that they'd been delivered, and we went to the reception, and the receptionist was like, "We're not a post office." And I was like, "I asked you if you could take an Amazon package, and you said, yeah, that's fine."
Absolute
But we
cheek.
eventually got them. So he's got one that goes around the neck, which has become like quite de jour at the minute. Like everyone seems to have those.
Yeah.
But being him, he's taken it one step further, and he has one that straps to his chest and like goes through his t-shirt, which
That's only mascots wear those.
yeah,
That's
it's extreme, right? But see, when I have this little handheld fan that I'm showing on the video version on that you can see on YouTube, every time I shoot that up my t-shirt, it feels lovely. So the idea to having that going, because I feel like the feeling of a t-shirt on you when you are warm is the worst. So trying to mitigate that, but it's the loudest thing in the world. So he's just walking about Harajuku going.
It's weird because at the risk of sounding almost royal, I don't sweat that much. But like, so I do, but it takes a lot. So like when I was walking about like in Japan, like it was absolutely roasting. But it took a proper hour of walking for me to finally start going, oh, I'm sweating a wee bit. It's like it takes. I'm just really lucky. It takes. I know it's my Italian roots, but yeah, it takes a while for me to get going. So I kind of
You eat a
coped
spaghetti.
okay. I do very much.
That makes me so jealous. I just have to have the inference of heat, and then I start getting a little bit
away.
A little bit. Oh god. At one point, I had aluminium based deodorant that's meant to like clog your pores, but I often thought like, see if my body wants to sweat and my pores are clogged, is it just going to build up and I'm going to have like bingo wings full of sweat that I'll need to pop at some point? The solution currently is I got a deodorant in Canada from the Hasty Mart, the 1-star market that had the amazing energy drinks. I got like a roll-on that was entirely in French. It's the strongest deodorant I've ever had. I love it. I'm going to be so gutted. I'm going to be phoning Digital Extremes to ship me some when this runs out. But yeah, any drinks this week? I'm just rocking a Pink Monster. You do?
Yeah, I do. I think if you remember last week, I tried Sifa, some sort of weird prototype drink. Well, they actually sent me 2 flavors. So, and I have the other flavor, which is Sifa Shift Tropical Twist.
Nice.
Which again, quite clearly marks on the bottom. I don't know if you can't really see that in the camera. Prototype, it says at the bottom.
That looks like sun cream.
Yeah, it does a bit, and it says on the back. There's no barcode or anything because it's a prototype. It literally says prototype sample, evaluation purposes only, no resale permitted. So I can't put the empty bottle on eBay once it's been tanned. I have my lemon Fanta as a backup because I'll almost certainly need it. The last one wasn't good. I think it was cherry flavour or something. So it's just tropical twist, which could be anything. Just make up any fruits. So
remind me, was it flat? It's a flat one. It's not a carbonated one.
If I remember, it's got a wee bit of fizz to it, but it was highly medicinal. And it was like drinking Calpol, but not the good Calpol. So I'm going to attempt it. It's got a wee screw cap. Which didn't actually unscrew. It didn't crack. So it's an awful sign. So if it was fizzy, it's not anymore.
What's the first smell?
The first smell is even worse than the last one.
Good. Come on.
I can't even describe it. The colour is off yellow. Here we go. I'm going to actually open the Fanta first.
Chris Scullion takes poppers. Oh Jesus, we've got to the point where we're taking chasers for the.
No, I'm opening the Fanta because I can tell I'm going to need it. It smells horrible.
Down in one. He's taking it down. Oh, he's dribbling more than normal.
That's horrendous.
Oh,
it's actually not
horrendous.
Good. Switching to the Fanta.
Not what you're after.
Mm-mm.
Describe the bouquet for us. Was it like a really sour orange?
It wasn't even like I couldn't even name a fruit because if it was like a if I could have targeted down on one fruit, my brain could have focused on that fruit and enjoyed myself. But it's it really is like a medicine, but like a I really couldn't even begin to describe it. You can tell that they're going for the beneficial fucking thing. They're going to say, "Oh well, it does this, it does that, does that." We're not bothered with the taste.
Get it back and you feel better. Much like those 5-hour energies I had that just tasted absolutely like battery acid.
Yeah, it's the equivalent of drink. Like if you drink raw eggs, you go, "Well, that was horrible, but at least I'm going to benefit from it." I think that's the picture, but I don't necessarily know if I'll benefit from that.
Remake of Rocky, you're pouring 4 of those into a cup and like mixing them up together.
Do you know how much it costs? And I was looking in the you have to fill a wee survey out after you have it, and it says, "How much would you pay for this?" I'm like, this wee shot, like I don't know, £1 at most, something like 350, £4 they're selling for these things.
I knew you would say that because like I think the 5 hour energies are $5. Like
Obscene.
the yeah, it's a ridiculous amount of money. I think they do that for safety reasons because if they were £1 and people had a fiver, they'd buy
Just
5 of them, tank
just
them all, and
absolutely
their heart would
destroying them.
explode.
Aye. But no sale. Sorry.
No sale.
Sorry, Sypha, Sypha, short for syphilis. No sale.
I did get asked why we don't have some kind of ranking system or review scale. Obviously, ranking energy drinks is very much the domain of our close energy drink colleague Jeff Gersman, so we don't want to encroach on that territory.
Yeah.
But I think a sale or no sale going forward would probably be a good idea.
Yeah.
I notice now that often when VGC listeners go to America, they tweet us and say, "What are we after?" So I really feel like we need to have a centralized list of like a sale, no sale.
We should have a list somewhere, maybe on our Patreon page or somewhere. We should set up a list and update it as and when we add new energy drinks to the list.
On our Patreon page, patreon.com/Video Games Chronicle.
Yeah, that one.
Oh, casually done. Patreon.com/Video Games Chronicle if you're interested in bonus podcasts, bonus videos, and bonus VGC. But we'll talk about that later on. Shall we get some news done, Chris?
I would love to.
And we're starting with shite. Bungie has announced it's laying off 220 staff. This is basically the big story of the week. The Destiny maker, despite making what many called the best expansion to Destiny, something that got 9s and 10s out of 10 with the final shape, has announced that 220 roles have been eliminated. On top of this, several Bungie employees have been moved into the main PlayStation Studios ephemera, and weirdly buried in this announcement letter by CEO, embattled CEO Pete Parsons, they announced that they're forming a new studio in PlayStation Studios to work on a sci-fi game. It's believed that Bungie were working on Payback, which is being described variously as a game in the Destiny universe, but not quite Destiny 3. In general, Chris Scullion, this is a bad one.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a few weeks since we've heard of a big layoff story, so I was kind of hoping that we'd turned a corner and the worst of it was done. But here we go again with another, and like you say, it's a bad one. It's like 220 gone, another 150 odd moved to a different team. Moved into PlayStation. It's not a good sign at all, and yeah, when Sony bought them for like, what was it, $3 billion or something like that, and
Yeah.
something like that, at the time it felt like a bizarre decision, because that's a hell of a lot of money to be spending on a single studio, especially a single studio that at the time was only working on expansions for a single game, and they've been apparently working on numerous projects, but a lot of those have now been scrapped. They were saying that in the blog that they were stretching too thin and juggling too many things, and now they're focusing just on Destiny and Marathon, which used to be called Stickers, and I think they've
I knew you were
renamed
going
it.
to say that. I knew it.
We'll move to Opal Fruits later. But it's crap. It's I wonder how the rest of the team feels just now, how the morale is at Bungie, because you like happy studio, happy. You know what I mean? Like happy life.
Yeah.
The games get better as a result. But if everyone's kind of thinking what's going to happen next, it can't be a great kind of working environment for the people who remain.
No, it seems like it's really really dire over there. The IGN did some reporting saying that the atmosphere is absolutely terrible, and no wonder. Like, it's everyone at Bungie will have probably had like direct friends and people they've worked with that were affected by this. You mentioned stretching themselves too thin. Yeah, they were working. Obviously, they got the final shape done. They're working on Marathon. They're now they incubated the sci-fi thing with PlayStation. They had Payback. So you imagine that the Destiny 2 team was going to move into Payback, because that's what Luke Smith, who it was Mr. Destiny, was working on. He is now gone, which is unbelievable. The fact that someone of Luke Smith's name can just like disappear, who has been there since Halo, is crazy. Like, the idea is that when they shuffled the exec roles, because there are less big projects, there was no role for him. Any studio that can't find a role for the guy that like spearheaded Destiny and worked on Halo is one that is failing. But yeah, it seems that Bungie Bungie needs to get its act together before it is just a name. Like, it feels like we're already at the point where it's just a name in PlayStation's roster. And if PlayStation bought them for 3 million, obviously they're going to go in, especially with your man Totoki, who's all about like saving money now. They're going to go in and be like, "What are you doing?
Yeah,
Like, we have to take the reins off you." I saw Grubb say that Herman Hulst is basically in charge of them now, the same way that he'd be in charge of any of the studios. They
yeah,
don't have the autonomy that the sale was kind of sold on. And
yeah.
obviously, you say things when you buy a company that perhaps won't actually turn out true, but maybe just be to satiate people when you hear that Bungie are once again being bought by a first party. But
Yeah.
what what's the next step? Because I can see Marathon getting concorded if it even comes out.
I was never massive, like when they announced it. There wasn't a lot of people going, "Oh, brilliant marathon!" It was just,
It was
it
like,
wasn't.
oh yeah, Marathon. That's
Yeah,
weird.
and it's weird that, um, but yeah, like Stephen Totillo did a thing on his newsletter last night, but he'd spoke to three sources as well who basically said, "Look, remember when they laid off like 100 and odd people last October? That was Bungie. Even though Bungie are meant to be fully autonomous as part of the deal, that was Bungie management showing Sony, by the way, we're serious about like our financial like." Um, Management, and we're not just pissing around here. We're serious about this, and that this new set of layoffs has been planned since the start of the year, and that even if the Final Shape had been an absolute blockbuster and sold millions of copies, it would have still happened. It was on the cards anyway. So yeah, it's not. You've got to wonder what's coming next. If Marathon has to be like an absolute bona fide blockbuster smash, and I'm not convinced the name. We need to see the game first, but in terms of name value, at least no one seems to care that much.
When's
Um,
the last one of these style of games that came out and like established footing and the kind of and the zeitgeist of shooters? Was it like Fortnite, Apex,
yeah, maybe
stuff of that
there's
ilk?
just too many now, and there's going to be even more by the time Marathon comes out because live service multiplayer is the big buzzword just now. So we're going to see loads of these come and go and die within 9 to 12 months. And you've got to wonder what Marathon's going to do to differentiate itself from the kind of countless others that we're going to get in between now and its release. It's going to everything's going to get diluted. People only have so many hours in the day. People will commit to their live service game and stick with it, and it's going to take a hell of a lot to kind of pull them away from it and start an entirely new one from scratch.
That's the thing. Like, Marathon has to be so good that it takes people away from their live service,
Mm-hmm.
and that is a tall order for any game,
Yeah,
especially when we are really in this calm before the storm. When a GTA 6 exists, when COD is immovable, when Fortnite is immovable, when Roblox is immovable, what are they chasing? Like, they're
yeah,
just chasing scraps at this point. If anything, and I think this is what Sony will actually um kind of hedge their bets on, because we know that they have typical Sony, like Ghost of Tsushima 2 is on the way, and we've got multiple Insomniac games on the way. We've got Cory Barlog's thing, which is a single player experience. Like, this is the time where people are like crying out for that stuff, because
yeah,
every time you go, it's a live service game, everyone goes, "Oh, come on!" Like, the buzzword has so poisoned at this point.
yeah. This is
You must.
this is a problem as well. Is that they brought Bungie in to help with their live service plan, their live service strategy, because it's been known for a long time now. Sony wants in on the live service game, and Helldivers 2 was a great kind of success for them in that
A
front.
great fluke.
Well, yeah, nobody. Well, let's face it, nobody was like talking about Helldivers 2 until it came out and was suddenly a massive success. And everyone went, "Oh, okay, good," but they're hoping that Lightning could keep striking with that and stuff like Concord. Even though hands on, like you're hands on, and I seem to say this is actually quite a good game. Actually, apologies for the people watching on video. Like my phone flash keeps turning on and off for some reason, so I look like I'm having constant power cuts. The although like Concord, it will, although it's getting good write ups, it will take a minor miracle for this to be an enormous game. And
Yep.
by all accounts, Bungie's quite hands-on with the live service strategy. Like, it's been reported in the past that they were instrumental in cancelling The Last of Us's multiplayer mode, because they, for whatever reason, apparently said that this isn't working. But
which, just to jump in, apparently, and on reflection, Naughty Dog was like, yeah, that's the correct decision.
yeah, regardless whether right or wrong. But it's like, that's a lot of responsibility to put on Bungie's shoulders, especially when Destiny 2 wasn't like considered one of the greatest ever live service games when it released. I mean, like, Destiny 2 did okay, but like, people, if I remember well, it's not a genre that I'm massively well versed in. But as far as I understand it, Destiny 1 was received a lot better than Destiny 2 was.
So the way it kind of, Destiny 1 was like, this is great, it's got a lot of potential. Destiny 2 started off as, this is better, but it's not quite done everything we're looking for. Eventually it got there. Like, obviously, peaks and troughs with these games where people are happy and sad with them, but like, Destiny 2 overall is seen as a very good game.
Yeah.
And they, like, if you consider Final Shape the end, which essentially it is, although considering this, they might just be like, you know, we said this was the last expansion. It's actually cheaper for us to just make more than to make a new game.
Here's new DLC called A New Shape.
Yeah. Oh my god,
the rhombus. But yeah, it's like it's going to be curious to see what happens in the next few years, because these big budget single player third person games take a long time to develop now, we've established, and Sony's going to hope that live service carries them until those releases, and it's not massively clear yet whether live service is going to work for Sony.
That's the thing, like, you say that, and that's probably what they're thinking is, but it's not as if just because it's a live service game it suddenly takes like 2 minutes to develop.
Oh no, of course. Yeah, but
it's you need these if you need a stopgap, it can't be something that takes basically as long to get a new Spider-Man out. Like, it's silly. I think this is it's both a weird era for PlayStation, but also they're seeing absolutely brilliant success. Like, they're not really suffering too badly. I think a world in which they had an actual competitive rival, things could look different. But
they're actually quite fortunate that Microsoft isn't, like, we keep saying they're not marketing Game Pass properly and stuff like that. They're actually quite fortunate that that's the case, because a strong Microsoft would be really making them sweaty at the moment.
Yeah, they have no competitor, and they're like so solidly in second place. Like, Nintendo's on a different universe up the way, and Xbox is in a different universe back the way. It's so weird. There's never been greater disparity between the three.
They're 2001 era WWE basically.
Yeah. So yeah, I think this is it's terrible. Bungie is a legendary developer. Created Halo 3 is one of my favorite games of all time. I am sure that there's probably about 2 people left working there that worked on Halo 3, but you still have a soft spot in your heart for them because of what they did.
Yeah.
And Bungie was the name. Like, there was a time where it was like, oh yeah, like Bungie and Rockstar, and you'd put them up there, but there's been a weird kind of decline. You would have hoped that the PlayStation ownership would have been the thing to change that, but apparently not. Okay, next story. Chris, there is no Olympic Games. They've cancelled them. And they got to Paris and thought, oh my god, this is a shithole. We can't possibly have the Olympic Games here. So they've cancelled them. No, there is no video game Olympic Games for the first time in more than 30 years. You may remember that during the 2010s, Mario and Sonic were teaming up for those London Olympics, Rio Olympics, and Olympic Games in Tokyo, which didn't take place, thanks COVID. And there was also there was several kind of official video games for the Olympics that weren't related to Mario and Sonic. But this year, there's not going to be one, which apparently is because the only game for Paris 2024 is the free-to-play mobile title Olympics Go by the developer Anyway, which features microtransactions and officially licensed commemorative NFTs. Come on now, Chris.
NFTs. No effing thanks, I believe, is clever, biting satire. This is a shame for me. Like, I know a lot of people don't care that much, but I always got excited. I always like event games, like a World Cup game or a Euros game or an Olympics game, and I would always get the Olympics game when it comes out. I would always get the Winter Olympics game when it would come out as well. That's like, and people might not think it matters that much, but like, it helps with it helps you remember them as well, because like other had it not been for the Winter Olympics games, I could never have told you that there was a Winter Olympics at Nagano and one at Lillehammer, because those are the games I got and I remembered them and enjoyed them. So it's video games are good for brand recognition, especially if the Olympics are trying to appeal to younger players, younger generations, because that's why they're trying to bring in esports and stuff like that in the Olympics, which is slightly mental, I think. But it's a shame that there's no big event game like this. Like, I understand that Mario and Sonic maybe aren't involved anymore. Apparently, Mario was caught doing power increasing substances, but it's just a shame for me, and it's been going that way as game development's getting more expensive and stuff like that. That's why there hasn't been a World Cup game for a while. It's just been kind of bolted onto the FIFA series.
I'm the same as you. One of my favorite FIFAs is the South Africa World Cup game, because they used to use it as a weird testing ground for like mechanics and stuff like that, and there would be stuff in it that would just never return.
Yeah.
I think that the way that they've changed it is obviously probably a reflection of the price of games to make now. But I agree, the Mario and Sonic games were fun. Those were also mega sellers.
Yeah.
You must imagine that Nintendo and Sega were quite happy with it. Was that a Sega joint that had Mario in it, or was it a Nintendo game that had Sonic in it?
It was a Sega joint with Mario in it, if I recall correctly. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that was the case. There were Sega games with Mario in them. But they were great. They were fine. I mean, there were mini game compilations, which is what was the Wii's bread and butter, and then they obviously moved to the Wii U, and fewer people cared. And there was what the Tokyo one must have been on Switch. But yeah, they were fine games, and with each new one, they at least tried something different. They would add wee story modes and put maps in it. And I remember the London one like had some sort of party mode where you moved around London and tried to claim bits of London and stuff like that. But yeah, it's
bloody Sadiq Khan,
well, I know,
blue hedgehogs everywhere. Come on,
coming over here, taking our rings,
stealing our rings.
But it's a shame. I always like an event game, and it seems like event games are a thing of the past now. It just doesn't really happen anymore.
Yeah. Well, the Olympics is an absolute shambles anyway. The kind of people that they let play beach volleyball, they should burn in hell. Story number 3. This is one for us, Chris Scullion.
Here we go.
The Pat McAfee WWE 2K24 DLC pack
finally
is out now.
Finally.
Starring AJ Hawk, Darius Butler, Ty Schmidt, and Boston Connor. Out of those rogues gallery, out of that Mount Rushmore of professional wrestling, who are you most excited to play as first?
Oh, mate. I love a good Schmidt Connor tag team. So it's gotta be that.
Legendary. They're like the British Bulldog, and
it was like second only to the Road Warriors.
Yeah.
Another
Road Warriors mention. It's been a while, God rest them.
What a rush!
What a rush! We always talk about this, but the old story that Hawk got mad with and fell out a window, is that actually true? I can't remember the last time.
Did you see? Are you following? You subscribe to WWE Vault on YouTube?
Yes.
Did you see they put up CM Punk's first dark match recently? Like as in a couple of days ago, CM Punk introduces it. He says, people have always asked to see this, where he and some other guy in a tag team fought against the Legion of Doom. The Road Warriors, they brought them back to try and bring them back into the WWE. So it's a dark match, but you can hear the fans doing a big pop because they play the Legion of Doom music and they're all chanting LOD, LOD, and it's them fighting CM Punk and some other jobber. But the whole match, they've put the whole match on WWE Vault like a couple of days ago, and it's brilliant because you can tell even then that Punk sells really well. Like he's got something. The other guy's hopeless, but Punk sells it. It's worth a watch. It's good.
Also, Punk is such an actual wrestling nerd. He would have been absolutely freaking it. He did his top 5 of all time on a show the other day, and it was like Harley Race, Terry Funk, Eddie Guerrero, and 2 others that I can't remember, but he forgot Brett. And Brett is obviously like his favorite. So he went on Twitter, he went on Instagram later, and he was like, match with top 5 is Brett, and Brett.
I've never even thought about my top 5. Maybe that's one for an off-topic podcast one day.
Yeah, I know 2 of my top 5, and it's CM Punk and Shawn Michaels, but that's basically as far as I've got.
One of my top 5 is Jericho, just because I liked he was my favorite for so long, but he seems like a bit of an arse.
Well.
Like,
yeah, but he's an absolute mentalist.
That's the problem. Like out of the ring, he seems like an arse, but like you can't question his technical prowess. And
like his wife stormed the Capitals. Like, talk about break the walls down. Like, she's an absolute maniac. Yeah, Jericho and Flair are 2 that are like, they are so good that they feel like they have to be there, or you don't know what they're talking about.
Which is crazy, because I never massively. Apologies to the video game fans listening to this. I was never massively into Flair's fighting style. Like, I liked it. I like his longevity and how long his career lasted, and he was great on the mic, great as a heel. But I've never really liked watching him wrestle, because it seemed like he would just get his arse kicked to do that thing where he walks and then falls on his face, and then do a figure 4, and that was about it. But that might be the ignoramus in me talking.
This is only wrestling adjacent, but you know that film, The Iron Claw, the one about the Von Erichs? There is someone playing Ric Flair in it, and it's the worst Flair impression you've ever heard. It's like, the cream of the crop is obviously Jay Lethal's impression, which is perfect, but this guy's like, I've got crocodile shoes and I'm in a limousine. Woo! He doesn't even do the woo properly. You go to any wrestling show and you'll find 200 people that can do the woo properly.
Have you seen Becky Lynch playing Cyndi Lauper in Young Rock?
Yeah, in Young Rock, yeah.
What's your name, kid?
What's your name? I'm Cyndi Lauper.
Hey, it's Cyndi Lauper here. I'm walking here.
Anyway, this DLC is out. 2K should be ashamed. What a waste of a DLC pack. When we come back, we have stories about Braid, Astro Bot, and a visual novel lawsuit that me and Chris will be recreating in this law theatre. A new segment I'm starting called Courtroom Theatre. Join us then. See you in a minute. And we are back. Next story, and a great example of that's what you get. Braid creator Jonathan Blow says sales of his recently released Anniversary Edition have been awful. A new video compilation put together by Below Fan. Come on now. I know a couple of games developers that are pretty big Below fans. Basically a montage of his Twitch channel where he was talking about the game. Quote, I'll put it this way. We're definitely not sure, he told a viewer when asking about how the game sold. It's not like we sold 1 million copies day one, which is what you'd expect. It's a remaster, right? So you don't expect it to be like a new game in terms of hype level, but we have to see where it lands. That was recorded 6 days after the launch of the Braid remaster, which you may or may not remember. The second clip, which was recorded 34 days after the release, Blow was asked how it sold. He responded, it sold horribly. Yeah, get up, you Jonathan. Quote, well, it depends on what your standards are. If you compare it to nostalgic things like Jeff Minter game that's on Steam or Atari 50, it sold much better than all those, which editorializing is a shame. Big up Jeff Minter. Every time I look at Jeff Minter's social accounts, he's like feeding sheep.
I'd also be curious to know whether that's actually true.
Oh yeah, Jonathan Blow.
Because where does he get the sales data on those collections? But that's by the by.
Yeah. Back to the quote, it sold much better than all of those, but it still sold like dog shit compared to what we need to make the company survive. The future is uncertain, let's put it this way. It hasn't been good. Now, put aside my disdain for Jonathan Blow. The Witness was a great game. Braid was a great game. He's not made anything new since The Witness. How can he be surprised that like a Braid remaster isn't setting the world on fire?
Like Braid... I'm putting aside my feelings on Jonathan Blow himself. Like that, people are people, and that's what it is. But I didn't like Braid when it first came out. But I think I was in the minority when it first came out because it felt too complicated for its own good for me. Like the kind of puzzle platform, I just couldn't get my head around it. I didn't like it. It felt too. I don't like puzzle. I like a puzzle game, but I don't like a puzzle game which is so convoluted that. You feel like an idiot playing it because the puzzles have got such complicated solutions that you just do trial and error and get annoyed with it until you finally stumble on it. So I never really liked Braid in the first place. I agree that if you're expecting, if he's talking about how it needs to sell to keep the company afloat, then don't rely on a remaster of an old game. Like the Braid, one of the reasons Braid arguably did well is because there wasn't a lot of competition at the time.
Yeah, it
was
was in
one
the
of the earlier,
XBLA like nascent days with like
yeah, it
Castle
was one
Crashers
of the
and Meat
first
Boy.
really big Xbox Live Arcade games when the idea of download only games was still fairly, on console at least, was still fairly novel. Now there's an absolute sea of stuff, and not just remasters but new stuff, and Braid has been surpassed infinite times. And while I appreciate what he did with it, they added like interactive commentary in this Braid Anniversary Edition, which by all accounts sounded like a really cool idea. It's still Braid at the end of the day, and people who cared about Braid played it a long, long time ago, and people who don't care about Braid have got too many things vying for their attention to make them suddenly care about Braid. So I'm not massively surprised it didn't sell great. And yeah, it is what it is.
Yeah. Apparently he is currently making a fucking programming language to make a new game in instead of just making a game. So I hope everyone that works for him gets away from that lunatic. Next story. Chris, this is the best news in about 40 fucking years, let me tell you. Astro Bot is getting a limited edition PS5 DualSense controller. The controller, which is going to retail for $69.99, which is the normal retail price for a DualSense, although you can get the normal colored ones for way under that all the time. It's like this is the retail price, but I think if you want a white DualSense, it's like 40 or something like that. So don't worry too much about it. Pre-orders start on August 9th. In US, UK, France, Germany, Belgium, Luxembourg, Netherlands, Italy, Spain, Austria, and Portugal. It's going to be on PlayStation Direct, but also it's going to be on like select retail partners, which is great because PlayStation Direct, terrible website, awful place to pre-order anything. Hopefully it's just on Amazon because that just works, you know. Thanks Jeff Bezos for sponsoring the podcast. But yes, I am absolutely thrilled about this, especially after they announced that Concord controller, and I was like, you seriously going to do this and not do an Astro Bot one? It's white with kind of blue on the handles, and there's two little blue Astro eyes on the touchpad. Chris, what do you think about the Astro controller?
It looks nice. I'm not a fan of blue and controllers or in my life in general, but it does look like a very nice controller. I'm a sucker for a novelty controller. I bought the Starfield one despite still having never played Starfield because I just like the controller design. But it looks really cool. I think we're all everyone on VGC is excited about Astro Bot because
we're gardening about this game.
Based on the tech demo that was released with the console, it was going to take a massive disaster for this not to be a fantastic game. So it feels like more of a safe bet to pre-order an Astro Bot controller than a Concord controller or indeed a Starfield controller. It's going to sell very well, despite the fact that it's 70 quid and almost definitely won't drop like the other controllers, because I think it's limited.
I think this will be gone. There's only been a few. There's certainly not been as many fancy PS5 controllers as Xbox do it, where every week they've got a new color. But the ones that have sold out, the Hogwarts Legacy one sold out. I think the God of War one eventually sold out. But
they did that. Was it PS4? They did the PS1 controller.
Yeah.
Remember that?
I've got that somewhere.
I really wanted that and never got one. But yeah, imagine being an Xbox controller collector.
It's unfathomable. Like you're just constantly seeing 80 quid coming out of your bank to the Microsoft store
on a monthly basis.
I
appreciate it because I like customization in my controllers, but they've got the design lab. You can literally make a controller whatever color you want. I don't understand why they keep. I mean, the new one looks good. It's like a translucent, but again, it's blue.
I asked the VGC Maniacs what their favorite special edition controller was. If you want to follow along with the picture element of this and you're listening to the podcast, go to @JordanMidler on Twitter.
I haven't even seen the replies to this, but I guarantee you someone said the Resident Evil chainsaw controller.
Correct.
Because that's the one everyone brings up.
At Doomtrain, you've actually got a few of these. I posted the 20th anniversary PlayStation controller. It's PlayStation was 94, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
December 12th, December 3rd? It was 12/3/94, something like that.
Something like that.
If they don't drop that PlayStation 1 themed DualSense they had at Jim Ryan's Leaving Bash, mentalists.
Yeah.
Anyway, lots of shouts for the Starfield controller. Kieran McClung said that awkward moment when the controller is better than the game. Our good friend Dave Breen's replied, "Common Xbox problem." To be fair, lots of shouts for the Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom Switch Pro controller, which is like black and gold. That is nice. Like one of the sides of it has like the kind of infected arm thing that he has in the game.
I've got that about. I bought that actually because when the kids started getting into games and started wanting to play co-op stuff, I'm like, well, I'm not holding the bloody Joy Cons like a rube. So I bought like a second Pro controller, and that's the
Pro
one I went
controller's
for.
great, man.
That's
My
what a
favorite Pro
controller, mate.
controller was the Wii U one. That one just felt perfect to me.
Sensational.
Mike Channel says, I mean, on brand for Mr. Outside Xbox himself, the Forza Horizon 5 yellow and pink
The yellow
pin
one.
slapper one. Yeah.
That was quite cool looking. I tell you, my favourite of all time was the Wu-Tang controller.
That's here as well.
Yes, that's the game.
Tom Chapman with the Wu-Tang controller. Go on, guess another one. See if we've got it.
Predictable, like old controllers. So, is it an old one or like a kind of modern?
They're all last 2 generations.
All right. That's less fun because the best ones were the kind of GameCube era. PlayStation ones. There weren't many.
I'm going to knock one off for you. The Sea of Thieves Xbox One controller that comes with a stand. It's like black but has like bioluminescent glow in the dark on it. Looks quite nice.
That's not bad. This isn't massively fancy one, but I liked when the Xbox had the Project Scorpio controller that just said Project. That was quite classy looking because it was limited edition because it was with the launch console, but not in your face about it. It was quite cool, I think.
I have my favorite Xbox controller ever is the Titanfall 1 Xbox controller that I've got. It's like white with like orange and black Titanfall design on it. I still use that if I need an Xbox controller. It's still just something about it. It just works for me. I remember buying an Xbox One, buying that Titanfall controller in the shop in Game Center in Paisley, God rest it. I opened the Xbox One box, took that controller out and traded it in for like a bit extra money towards the Titanfall controller.
Can I tell you the biggest disappointment I've ever had with a controller, and it wasn't a cheap controller, when they started doing Design Lab for the Xbox Elite or whatever it is, the Series 2, the fancy controller. And I thought, okay, I'm up for that. I was waiting to buy one so that I'll customize my own one. So I got my green Celtic themed one and made it all turned up fantastic. It doesn't have a share button. That controller, which is like £150 controller, does not have a share button.
Why?
And you have to go into the options and you have to assign share to one of the bumper buttons at the back, which means I keep hitting it by mistake and taking random screenshots. And it also means, with the share button on Xbox, you can set it so when you tap it, it takes a screenshot, and you hold it down, it takes a 30-second video. When you assign it to a bumper, you can't do that. It only takes screenshots or videos. So you have to really assign it to 2 different ones, which means sometimes if you bump into the video one by mistake, you're recording a 30-second video and filling up your hard drive by complete accident. And it's like, why would you not have the share button in your most expensive controller? That makes me, it was so disappointing. So I don't actually use it that much now because I like kind of taking screenshots and stuff while I play. And like I use the Starfield controller instead, even though it's much cheaper.
Yeah. I also, on my PlayStation, what's the fancy one called? The Edge, something like that. I have the back buttons. Yeah. They're assigned to nothing. I just like tapping them. Because when I'm playing something, it's nice to just
it's gonna be fidgety thing.
Yeah, exactly. I also recommend everyone who uses a PlayStation 5 controller, if you're into taking screenshots, you can set it up so that one press is a screenshot, a long hold is a record, and it doesn't pop up that bottom bar that like interrupts everything. So as people who need to take a billion screenshots all the time, it's very helpful.
Exactly, 100%.
But yeah, I love a controller. I'm gonna get this fucking Astro one. We've shouted for the rooftops about Astro, and since we're here, we'll announce. We were asked about it, especially after I said that we're doing a Star Wars Outlaws review roundtable. We will also obviously be doing an Astro Bot review roundtable. That will be with you probably late August, I imagine. That game's out on like the 7th of September. So it was 35 days yesterday. So that makes today
Sitting with a wee
34.
calendar counting it down.
So I opened Astro's Playroom to get, because they have special bots from the new game and the old one, and if you go into the the museum where all the PlayStation stuff was, which is fucking brilliant, they have a big door that's like Astro's Next Adventure, 35 days to go. Obviously, if you go into it, it goes, "Would you like to go to the PlayStation store by chance?" I was like, "No, thank you."
That tech demo was the first time I ever got nostalgic for PlayStation. Which is crazy to think, because I've obviously been playing PlayStation all my life and got all the consoles and love all the games, love all the stuff. But for some reason, it always felt kind of, it never had that emotional impact on me. It always felt kind of
pre-assigned though.
Clinical.
You've got your hang.
But yes, that's saying Nintendo, Sega, all those kind of 8-bit, 16-bit, like Konami, everything. You just need to show me a single sprite, and I'm like, yeah. But PlayStation, I always felt kind of like I loved PlayStation, and like I loved all the games, but it's all. But playing that kind of Astro's Playroom, and when all the consoles appear, and when the dinosaur appears, the kind of the demo disc dinosaur from PS1 appears as a boss, I'm like, you've got me. Like I finally, I've got the nostalgia now. All of a sudden,
Astro's Playroom was the thing that solidified to me that PlayStation is my Nintendo, because it was seeing all these items that I lusted over in magazines, all these controllers and all that stuff in the PS3 era that I bought, like the Move controllers and like the gun and the stupid bow and arrow and all that stuff. It's like, oh my god, like it was, and they were rendered so well. Like they had like the plastic engraving, the copyrights and stuff.
It was proper like hardware porn. That museum is more like a look how great Sony's design process is, rather than remember this. It's like, look how great we are. But yeah, that was pretty cool.
Yeah. Astro, cannot wait. Get here soon, please.
Some boy.
Final story. Pascal, you better get that story open, because I'm going to make you read some quotes in a moment. A Japanese visual novel creator has decided to take legal action after their latest game was streamed in its entirety on the day of release. I'm going to read this in the BBC voice, just because we're taking it seriously. Game creator and novelist Takaya Ijima wrote a lengthy thread on X explaining the latest visual novel was streamed on day one, despite requests that content creators refrain from streaming the game until a week after release. Following the success of the visual novel, Apathy, Nurugami Gakuen Nana Fushigi, which I'm sure is how it's pronounced, on Switch, a new visual novel called Apathy Murder Club was released on Steam at a reduced price of $6.39. I now cross over to our visual novel correspondent, Chris Scullion.
Hello.
Some quotes.
So Ijima, after releasing this visual novel for $6.39, said, "But this is the result. Someone made a live stream of our newly released novel-style adventure game, playing it for several hours from the first day of release through to several different endings." The argument here being that streaming games is all well and good, but when the game is a visual novel, and you're literally just, in many circumstances, just pawing through a bunch of dialogue, then by streaming a visual novel, you're literally giving away the entire game. So Ijima then added, "I'm really sad that there are people who don't follow the rules of gameplay. If we encounter people who are happy ignoring the wishes of game creators like this, we will have no choice but to raise the price of games or ban streaming indefinitely. If the game doesn't sell, then there's nothing we can do about it." And then Double Down says, "I don't create games so that people can create derivative works or play them live. We create games for other people to play. Is that wrong? I make a living by making games. I am supporting my family." So yeah, he wasn't massively chuffed. I say he. I'm not actually sure what their gender is, but they went on a bit of a rant and started saying, when they first kind of did a big thread on Twitter, they started saying, I'm not only going to sue this guy who was streaming the game, we're going to take down every single stream of our games that's ever gone up. They say the reason why I'm so thorough is because I want to protect future creators. Even if this person never does this to me again, they will look for other smaller, weaker prey. Nascent creators who are powerless to fight back shouldn't fall prey to the venom of these unscrupulous people. So I'm going to crush it completely. they then had a kind of a slept on it, and then the next day said, actually, I'm not going to take down every single video that's ever been made because this takes work, but this one guy is still going to get it.
Everyone who streams a video game should be hung. I think that's a pretty level-headed,
Yep.
normal stance to take. If you stream a game and a single person watches it, you should be punched in the head for every viewer you have. That is the political stance I will run on. Look, I get it. It must be annoying when it's a visual novel.
Yeah.
And that's like the whole game is the experience of watching it.
Mm-hmm.
Have you considered making a real game?
Putting that aside, because I'm not touching that. As an Ace Attorney fan, I'm not touching. But Ejima has also said one of my favorite lines in the whole of that I've ever covered video games. My 18 years doing this, one of my favorite lines here. So they backed down a bit and said we're not going to sue everyone, but they're still clearly quite angry about this person streaming their game. And someone replied to their thread and said, another Japanese person replied to them basically saying, look, this global mindset of not following the rules that you're asked is now spread to Japan, and it's kind of unfortunate that people in Japan are happy to stream games, like even when they've been asked not to. It's a shame because we should be better than this, basically. And Ejima said this is proper like Joker level like stuff, like the proper like madman ready to destroy the world. Said, quote, such people do not show any remorse and will continue to prey on other vulnerable people. I think most of them are the kind of people who would rather make excuses than apologise. I'll give those who look down on the world a bitter candy to lick. May I recommend Sifa energy drink?
God, well.
That's an incredible line for somebody streaming their game. I'll give those who look down on the world a bitter candy to lick.
Sounds like a fighting game intro. Like you come into the smash screen, they hit out with that.
You must stream Shing
We
Long.
need to keep an eye on this guy.
I'm delighted. I really hope. Yeah, I'm curious to see what happens because to be fair, I get their point. Putting aside the argument of whether visual novels count as games or not, the fact they're so linear means it's the equivalent of streaming a movie, basically. Because I knew a pal once who back in school, I caught up with her recently, and she doesn't play games, but she watches streams. And she was like, "Did you see have you played the Resident Evil 4 remake?" I says, "Yeah, it's quite good. What did you think of it?" She says, "Oh yeah, I watched it last week." And like that's how she gets her game content, is by watching streamers. So yeah, for stuff like visual novels where you watch it from start to finish and you therefore no longer have to buy the game because you've literally seen everything the game has to offer, I get it. But yeah, I don't know.
Visual novels are a waste of time. Okay, that's it for this week. If you like more podcasts from VGC, you can check out patreon.com/Video Games Chronicle. We also have extra video content there. We have an off-topic podcast, the first episode of which is out now, and a retro podcast coming soon. You'll get one of those each per month, depending on your tier. Thank you for listening to the podcast. You can send any questions, comments, and concerns to podcast@videogameschronicle.com. Follow us on Twitter @Jordan Midler, @Scully1888. We'd like to thank.
I should be playing too much. Thank goodness you're here.
That's a good point, actually. Thank goodness you're here is out. Play it.
What a game.
Fantastic.
Have
you played it yet?
I played the first hour or so and kept annoying Louise because I kept saying stopping her. She was trying to work. And I said, "Look at this and look at this and look at that sign. Look at this."
She's like, so funny, man. It's the funniest game ever. I think it's hard to argue.
It's really good.
Do we have a final last minute late entry in the controller wars?
Oh,
the Final Fantasy X2 gun controllers. Okay, come on now. The X2 Desert Eagle gun controllers for the PS2. That is actually fantastic.
Here's one for you
back.
that I've just remembered: the Dragon Quest slime controller.
Oh, the big ball.
You turn it upside down and basically fiddle with his balls to play the game. That's the future of video games right there.
Well, fiddle with our balls next week. Thank you to the incredible Grant Kirkhope for VGC's podcast theme. Patreon.com/Video Games Chronicle. Say goodbye, Chris.
Goodbye, Chris.
And we'll see you next week.